All right, so our last story for today, before we go into our loose topic, is an interesting story that a lot of people have been overlooking, but I think it's worth noting. So there's an activist investor named ValueAct Capital Partners, and they have basically built a stake of 1.1 billion, or 2% minority stake in Nintendo, according to a letter seen by Reuters. That digital software distribution and development of new products will fuel growth at this Japanese gaming company of Nintendo. They started buying stock back in April 2019, and they've since basically, to current date, built that kind of 1.1 billion stake in Nintendo, which is sizable. Now, it's important to remember, 1.1 billion, as big as that is, that's only about 2% of Nintendo. This is a massive, incredibly old company that, I mean, by no means is ValueAct controlling Nintendo. It's not one of those situations of, like, Ubisoft back in the day where they were getting bought out for a second. They said Nintendo's future is bright, ValueAct wrote in his letter, adding that there's potential for growth both in the software business and room for the company to transform itself into a broader entertainment company. And I wanted to bring up this story because now that they're getting, big flushes of cash from different places who have almost different visions or more ambitious visions for Nintendo's future, I feel like in many ways during the transitionary period of kind of the old guard moving on through, either going to different countries, companies, some people are getting a little older and passing away. There's various different situations, but you're getting a lot of new faces in there, especially with like Doug Bowser and stuff like that. New people are coming in, new presidents, new developers are going to surely come. Miyamoto, he's still an absolute juggernaut in the game industry. But you're going to see new names coming out of Nintendo outside of Miyamoto who are going to start, launching new IPs and stuff like that. So I just wanted to talk about, what do you think the future of Nintendo looks like now that eventually the guard is going to be changing and you're going to have a lot of fresh faces over there?
I think they're just going to keep growing as, like they keep saying, a broader entertainment company. Nintendo is always going to be, first and foremost, a gaming business, I would assume. They're always going to keep making their games. Whether they stay in the hardware section forever is a little bit more debatable. That might be a hit or miss. We don't know where that could, because things were pretty shaky right up to the Switch. Everyone thought they were going to go third party, something like that. And I really don't see that happening now, obviously thanks to the success of the Switch. But I see them growing in a different aspect. And we can already see this with that, didn't they team up with Universal for... Was it Universal they teamed up with for that?
Yeah, the amusement park.
The amusement park, and, I know they're having all these other kind of stuff that they need to be working on.
Lego,
I think that, too. Yeah, they got that weird Lego thing. That's the stuff I think we're going to start seeing. I think it's slowly going to grow into... They are going to start producing or teaming up with... film industries. I don't think some of these IPs they have work as films. It'd probably be better like some sort of Netflix series, or who knows what they would even team up with.
Well, they're working with Illumination, I know, for that Mario.
That Mario movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because who knows? That'll probably start off something. It's either going to start something off or not going to start something off. I don't know how that's going to be. It's been a while since we've heard of anything though either, so it's been too quiet for them. I think that's what we're going to see, though. We're going to see them obviously work a little bit more with, industry parks and stuff like that, and having, a Mario Kart ride. And more importantly, we're going to see them really just expanding into a full-fledged business, which is, it seems like it's a little late because, you've had Microsoft been working on not only hardware, but, and software, but they've done, behind-the-scene works on movies and animations and all these other stuff. And Sony, obviously, really full-fledged now, launching their Sony Pictures or their Sony their PlayStation more thing. Sony obviously has always been in movies. They hold the rights to Spider-Man, all that kind of stuff. So I think you're going to just see Nintendo start doing that kind of stuff. It's just coming out of nowhere with weird announcements, and Nintendo being Nintendo and everyone's in good faith with them right now. Everyone's going to love those announcements. So that's what I really see them. I just see them really expanding into sections where you don't know. I know there's always people who are always wishing that they just start working with other people, putting their old titles elsewhere and stuff like that. And I think that's fine, and that will come in due time. But I think you're going to see Nintendo just, a Nintendo Lego set like that, when no one would ever really see that coming. Like a Nintendo Lego game, maybe we would have understood. But this is not, as of right now, there's no Lego Mario. It's just that weird toy setup. and it's just going to be a weird situation. And that's good that after so much time and all these partners have started to build stake and stuff like that, because they're going to be the ones giving Nintendo new ideas. Nintendo stuck to such old ways of thinking for Wii and Wii U, and we saw for so many years how that was hurting them. They started investing in newer ideas, putting a hybrid handheld slash console mixed together. That's not something Nintendo would have done. They want to make a cheaper Mario Kart game for handheld and a better quote unquote Mario game for their console. It's so now they have that one solid Mario game instead. So I think that old way of thinking is true. The way you were mentioning that those older guys are leaving. They're leaving to retire, to spend their the time they have left with their families and stuff like that. And now it's the people that those people inspired is what's going to help take over and push the business into a just broader company where Nintendo doesn't just think, when you hear Nintendo, it won't just be like, oh yeah, their newest Mario game. And I think that's what they need, and that's what we're going to start seeing.
Yeah, I think the major difference we're going to see between this new era coming forward, and some of the previous eras from Nintendo is the lack of insularity. Nintendo was definitely kind of like an isolationist nation for a long time, where it's like, it's us or we're messing with our own. We have our own IP. We have our own consoles. We don't need the relationships. We're fine. And I feel like in many ways it made sense, because every time they tried to mix with someone else, things kind of hit the fan for whatever reason or not. They make the Mario and Luigi movie, and look how that turned out. It's a meme now. They get involved with PlayStation to have the disc peripheral for the new console. That kind of falls apart. Now, obviously, they burnt PlayStation on that one, but that's another story for another time. Mm-hmm. But now, obviously, they're willing to forge those relationships, and Nintendo's incredibly protective of their IP. We know that. You do not play with their IP, they'll be on you quick. Whether you're a dude with 15 subs or 15 million, they're on you. So they're very protective, and I don't think that goes anywhere, but I think they see a way of how you can protect your IP and hold them in high regard and keep it at a high caliber of quality in terms of releases related to your IP, without necessarily having like a stranglehold where nobody can touch it. Don't look at Mario, don't look at Yoshi, they're ours, you can't mess with them. Obviously with Ubisoft, they worked with the Rabbids games, and they were able to build something pretty awesome together. And now they got the Universal deal. They're willing to deal with them and have kind of a physical Nintendo location in terms of that amusement park. They're willing to work with Illumination to translate their properties to movies, for example. They're working with Lego to have kind of the toys. So they're willing to forge these relationships outside of the traditional gaming ecosystem to kind of expand the money, to expand the company, to expand the reach. And I think that's generally a positive thing. And I think a lot of the new guards see the opportunities that lie outside of that. And even if you could read lightly into this, their kind of camaraderie with Xbox, I think, is something to be noted as well. The fact that they're willing to even work within the industry. Now, Sony and Nintendo working together is a little bit farther from happening.
Yeah, it's going to be a while.
Yeah, that's going to be a real long time. There's still a bit of bad blood there, understandably. But I think for even right now, Nintendo's starting to see, listen, not everybody is trying to step on our toes. And I think there's a lot of money and opportunity to be gained by partnerships across all different environments, all different industries, and even within their own industry. They finally see in many ways that, listen, Xbox is not necessarily trying to do what we do, and we can both exist within this ecosystem and work together. And I would love to see a time, and I understand fanboys have their own opinions, I like this lane, I like it separate, blah, blah, blah. But I think there's a beautiful thing to be said that, what if you can see, Nintendo be like, listen, we're not killing our IP and losing money by putting some of our NES titles in a nice collection for a PlayStation console. Honestly. Now, I think we're far from seeing that, but I think that is the kind of thinking that we'll see from Nintendo going forward. And a lot of people were trying to say, oh, Nintendo's going to go third party because they're failing. But I think actually they can go third party because they're succeeding. Mm-hmm. Because they're seeing so much returns within their own ecosystem that it doesn't hurt to put small things out elsewhere. Now, again, you ain't going to see Mario Odyssey 2 on the Xbox Series X. That ain't going to happen. Not anytime soon.
No, I don't ever.
But I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that it's like, let's put Super Mario Collection, 1, 2, and 3, the All-Stars situation on Xbox Game Pass. Like, I don't think that's insane because they're not losing any money from that. Trust me, they ain't hurting for cash in terms of people, interested in their properties in their own ecosystem. So I think that Nintendo, for many reasons, has a lot to gain and is fairly likely to expand their horizons. And it seems unlikely now. But again, like, would you have said that at any point where they have had a commercial with an Xbox and a Switch in the same commercial?
Yeah.
I think 20 years ago you say there's not a chance in hell that ever happens, and look where we are now. So I say don't write it off completely, and keep your eye on it, because I think the game industry is going to change a lot these next two, especially with crossplay. Again, with all that bad blood kind of subsiding, the days of like the Sega does what Nintendo don't and Crash screaming outside the Nintendo headquarters, that's kind of like a remnant of a bygone era.
Yeah.
Console agnosticism is higher than ever. You're getting way more people who don't necessarily ride or die for a single console the way that they used to.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes the people who do that look even freaking crazier on Twitter, because we see y'all and you looking nuts. It's not 1992 anymore. Relax. But yeah, man, I think the future of Nintendo is really bright, and I don't think that it's either they stay in their own ecosystem and succeed, or they go third party and die. I don't think that's an either or situation. I think they can succeed and expand at the exact same time.
Yeah, and I think Nintendo knows that more now than ever, and that's, what comes to mind is, that the crossplay stuff, where them and Xbox teamed up for that crossplay thing for Fortnite, and they made Sony look like fools.
Yeah.
They twisted Sony's arm because crossplay was always told can't be done, this, blah, 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 and
can't ensure safety.
All that stuff to our players. Most people play it on our systems anyway. None of that stuff flew. And Nintendo's a big one who was not like, nah, crossplay, gotta keep it safe, the children, we don't know who's on the other mic. And what happened? Microsoft saw the tea leaves and they were allowing crossplay with the PC stuff for a while. And then they got Nintendo on board. They showed Nintendo, listen, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. And
fast forward, we have crossplay.
And now you have crossplay.
What happened? Did Sony collapse? Did Xbox cease existence? No. Is Nintendo? No, nothing happened. People are just able to play with each other.
Nobody's sales were affected. A lot of Fortnite players are still on the systems they were playing. People didn't abandon ship because they did that. And unfortunately, it did take Microsoft and Nintendo to team up and be like, Sony, what are you doing? And that's why people like to crap on Fortnite, but it did something. It created this new generation where the new Call of Duty is now. You have your settings where you can lock up on what system you want to play, but it's crossplay. You have Sony cross-playing with PC in that new Predator game. These are things, Rocket League and all that stuff. Rocket League couldn't even twist them to do it, and once Fortnite they tried. Sony had to leave that old thinking behind, and I think with this investment in Nintendo and all these other companies, we'll start, lightly playing, because they know the console war era is over. It's not like you have a Sega or an SNES. Like right behind me, I have the collector's edition of Death Stranding. On top of that, I have the Gears 5 Xbox One, and then on top of that, I have my Nintendo Switch box. And it's like, that's what I didn't get these all at one time because I'm not rich, but but that's where people look, where people are like, no, yeah, I have this, and this, and I have this, and this. And it's like, I play this game on this game because I want to. And having that choice
will always exist. People are always gonna have a preference, but and people are always gonna bicker and be like, listen, where I play is better than you because of A, B, and C. But the days of this vitriolic hatred and these name calling and stuff like that, besides a couple trolls on Twitter, and then the YouTube comment section, they're not really shaping the narrative in any substantive way, and these are not the people affecting the bottom line. The average consumer plays what they want, when they want, wherever they want, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, I think there's room for everybody to succeed, and I'm just glad that we're in a place now where everybody can see it, especially Nintendo, who I feel like to wide industry trends tend to be a little slower at it. So I think the fact that, you know, in 2020 right now, they're seeing the benefits of more camaraderie amongst their peers and fellow industry people is a generally positive thing for the industry. And again, I see some people not super fond of it because they're kind of scared of the idea of like monopolies and companies working together to control everything. One company, like if there's no competition, then one company kind of dominates it all, and they kind of cite specifically like Disney, for example, buying up everything and controlling everything.
Correct.
But I think we're far from that, and I think what working in conjunction with is far from monopolizing and creating one center kind of product without any type of variation. I think we're so far from that, and not even heading in that direction, that that's not something we really need to be afraid of.
No, yeah, again, these companies are going to start working with each other, and it's going to be, you know, they're going to push each other to the extent, because you got to remember, we all remember before the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One came out, there was that, the PlayStation, and we won't ever see really a jab like this anymore, where they're like, how to share a game, and it was them handing
the hand over the game.
But
I love that.
Because Sony did that, Xbox was forced to change their weird, remember how you were supposed to share games with someone? With that weird sign-in, download, blah, blah, blah. Like, this super convoluted... I'm like, there's no reason for me not to just hand you my Blu-ray disc and be like, yo, play this game. And, you know, again, the days of that Sony doing that kind of, like, publicity stunt is way over. That video is still hilarious to me. But small things like that is what pushes. So, you know, these companies have to learn from each other, and that's what they are doing, and they're going to continue to do.